Hi guys, I have an Athlon motherboard here, AM2 Plus socket, Athlon 64. This came out of one of the 8 PCs that I bought at the car boot sale the other week for €40, and I got some very nice machines out of there. So this one is the only one that was actually faulty as such, and I said at the time I didn't really feel it was worth trying to fix this one due to the value of the board really. So the problem with it is, as I will now show you, with the post analyzer card, I have a speaker attached, okay? And if we try to start it, see that clicking noise? Can you see these flashing? Okay? This is getting just a little bit warm. I only had this on for a moment, so the processor seems to have power, and that's what it's doing. So on the previous video we had this, I just basically said unless somebody can give me a good reason to try and fix it, I didn't see much point, and somebody straight away pointed out that the best reason to fix it is because you guys come to my channel to watch me fixing stuff, and I can't really argue with that logic. So here it is. While we were just chatting, I've put another CPU in. This is a known good one, and we have the same clicking noise, yeah? And it's not even warm yet, to be quite honest. My best guess with this was one of two things. First of all, there was a lot of corrosion around the SIO chip, which is involved in the startup. And the second one is it may well be a corrupted BIOS, because in particular, Gigabyte boards seem to suffer a lot from that. So I cleaned this up as best I could, quickly, yeah, a quick clean. Let's have a look at that and see if we think that looks okay, and then if it does, let's find the BIOS chip and let's reprogram it, and let's see whether it then works. If it doesn't, we can have another look around. So here is the SIO chip, and you can see there's some sort of mess around here still. I will have another go at cleaning this. This may well be better with soap and water, to be quite honest. Let's just see if we can get rid of most of this mess here, yeah. Just see if we can actually get it a little bit cleaner. I could just try effectively drag soldering along here just to make sure we have some good connections. I have no problem with doing that. But that side looks pretty clean now, so have a go at this side. So I'm just giving it a bit more of an intense cleaning than I did previously, that's all. The stiff brush is very useful for getting down between these pins, okay. Yeah, let's just dry that out and have a look. I have this under the optical microscope. It doesn't give quite as sharp an image as the USB one, but we can have a look at this. It gives a much better image than I'm looking down at, by the way. So I'm going to have a look down here. So that, it's a bit messy up here still. It looks like there's some corroded components just above as well here. I don't even know if any of these are actually broken off. It's not brilliant. I don't think I have any actual shorts or broken connections here that I can see as such. But I'm not happy with this little mess we have here, yeah. I'll see if I can clean that particular bit. I haven't tried. Okay. And while we're at this, let's see if we can actually find the BIOS chip. So on more recent motherboards like this, the BIOS chip will be a 8-pin device. And when I say recent, I mean more recent than the old ones. You know, I found some retro stuff which have different types of chips. But there's a chip here down towards the battery, the CMOS. Let's have a look at that one. Is that the BIOS? You can normally tell by the part numbers, so they'll kind of start with 27 or 25 or 26. and then a letter normally. So this one, it doesn't particularly look like a BIOS chip number to me. Let me see if I can find any more chips of that size. Okay, there's another one down here. Again, I don't think that's the one. There's another one kind of in here, and this area wants cleaning up. Yeah, I need to clean this area up, it's a bit messy. Another one of these AZ chips. Okay, I've now found them, and I should have spotted them straight away because they marked backup BIOS and main BIOS. This one is 25VF080B. That's as I described. Number often starts 242526, something like that. 2526 is common. This one will be the same. A little bit harder to read, but looking down the microscope I can read it, and it's the same. And again, we have some corrosion around, especially the backup BIOS, this one, yeah, a bit of corrosion under there. To clean that, I need to really desolder it anyway, so let's take these off the board and let's try reprogram them and see what happens. BIOS chips are very easy to desolder, program and replace. It only takes a few minutes really. So we'll just add some flux to it, both of them in fact. Okay. Like so. Leaded solder. Bridge all the pins together. That's the way to do it. Just get a good blob of solder on there. Try and get them all together like so. As you can see, you don't want a thin tip for this, you want a nice chunky one. Okay, that'll do. Same on the other side. Nice blob of solder. Blob of solder. And this will come off easy now. You guys have seen me do this before, I think most of you. The leaded solder will reduce the melting points. Yes, you can use these special solders, but leaded solder is much cheaper and does just as well. And these will desolder without anything else even melting the solder of the lead-free solder in the area. So you don't have to put caps on, tape or anything on. These will just come off. Hot air at 450, and it won't take very long. You actually see the solder melt going now, shiny. A bit more. Off she comes. But the other one. I'll just direct the air away from the plastic. You could put caps on, tape on, but I don't think I'll actually melt it. Let's have a go. They're off. So there's the two chips removed, and the board is nice and warm. I didn't melt anything, Luke. If you're quick enough and you direct the air away from the plastic, you're usually just fine. And now we can just clean this up. That's ready to accept the reprogrammed chips. Okay guys, I have the chips here. Let me try and stop that crackling noise. That's my mobile phone doing that, guys. Actually, needs the speakers. Okay, there we are. So there's the two chips, and these are ready to program. Of course, we need a BIOS file. Yeah, so we'll go on the internet and see if we can find one. Best place to find this will be Gigabyte's website. So the board GA-M720-US3. Yep. BIOS. And we have Gigabyte's own website. What we vision as our board. It doesn't particularly say. Let's just hope there is only one revision. Looks like there is more than one revision. Let's have a look. So, not like Gigabyte-GM, like Driver Plus website. Yeah, we want Gigabyte's website. Revision 1.0, revision 1.1. So it appears to be for both. BIOS. Okay, and these are the various BIOS files, and we want, I would say, the most recent one. Yeah, so beta 1 update CPU codes. Let's go for that one from 2010. That'll do. GAM 720. Save. Now this is an exe file. Okay, that's interesting. This is actually an exe file. So we may have to, it may just be a self-extracting file. That's the first thing. Let's actually have a look to see what we've downloaded. Let's see it. Okay. It's a zip file in actual fact, so we can just extract that. Okay, so we actually have the flash utility, which is going to be of no use to us. And this, I'm sure, is the actual BIOS file. Look at this. You probably can't see the drop down. They don't show up for some reason on the video capture. But I can show you, look there. It's a 1 meg file, so that's a nice round number. That's a binary BIOS file. Okay, so we have a file. Let's try to program the chips. This is my TL866 programmer. You can see it there. And we need an adapter to hold the chip. This one actually has a chip in at the moment. No, that's something I was playing with at some time. So I can remove that. When you buy these programmers, you can buy them with a variety of adapters. In my opinion, get as many as you can. Yeah. You'll find you pay more with more adapters. You can always buy them individually later, but it just sort of save you the hassle if you need something, if you've already got them. Okay, but you know, if I probably only use 2 or 3 of the adapters mainly, even though I have about 20 different ones. So this adapter will hold these chips quite nicely once you get them in straight. Does it want to fit in there? There's a few different sizes of the adapters, so it may be that this one's actually the wrong size. No, I think it's the right size. It's just the video effect. You know, when you do things on video, they don't work. Okay. You can probably see if I catch the light on it. Yeah, there's the dots. So that's pin 1. So this can now go into the programmer. Just get the little lever up. Yeah. Okay. And close it. You can get adapters like these, and sometimes people ask me why I don't use them. The answer is that to use this successfully, you would need to power up the entire 3-volt rail that this chip's on, and the whole motherboard. Yeah, you'd have to be able to power the entire rail up, and you're not going to be able to do that, or not easily. And these things are just not particularly reliable. So guys, don't try it. Believe me, just do it this way. Yeah, this will work. So now we need to have a look if our programmer will support this chip. There are a few different software applications you can use with these programmers, by the way. I have a couple of them on here, but the one I mainly use is this one, Mini Pro Programmer. This software came with the actual programmer itself. Now let's just remind ourselves of the part number of the chip. It was 25VF080B. That one, okay? That's the actual chip. In actual fact, ours says SST in front of it. So I'm going to go with the SST on this one. SST 25VF080B. That's the actual chip that we have. And ours is the small output IC 8-pin. If you're not sure which package it is, just go and Google for this package, okay? And when you see a picture of it, you'll know it's the right one. So for example, the other one we could see, WSON. WSON 8, okay? Just Google that and you can see pictures of it, images. And you can see straight away that's not the one we have, okay? That's a different package, it has a different type of adapter. Ours is the other one, the SOIC. SOIC. That's ours. Okay, so that's how to figure out. If you don't know the package, I'm sort of used to most of these now. Select. So that's selected it, and now we try to read it. So R to read, read. It's recognised the ident. That means I know it's the correct chip type. Sometimes you'll have to switch this auto detect off and use the equivalent, but in this case it's the right one, and it's ready. Okay, get rid of that, and we can see we have some contents in here. You maybe even be able to look. You can probably read some numbers in here, some text and such like. Yeah, look, there you go, messages and things. Yeah, so it sort of looks okay. Let's save that. And I'm going to put it into the same folder, this one, and we'll call this one original one. I don't know which chip was which, the two to be honest. Original one, save, okay. Now let's program it, and then we'll do the same with the other one. So we now need to open the new file, file, open, and that's the one we want. And that's the one we want in the folder. You'll see the extension's different, not bin, but it doesn't matter. Open it, okay. Okay, so that's open the new file. Does it look the same? Hard to say. Let's program it. So to program it, quite literally, programming chip, program. And this will take a bit longer than reading. It's usually maybe a minute or two, depends on the size of the chip, so we just have to wait a little bit. If you're interested, my program is the TL866A version. There you can see the version. The advantage of this one is it will program the old EEPROM chips which have a high programming voltage. The disadvantage is that it won't program the 1.8 volt chips, but I have an adapter for 1.8 volts, so I can do that with it, whereas I think it'd be more difficult to find the adapter for the old high voltage chips. So to me, this was the best one to buy. I'm not sure they're even available anymore, which is why I specifically got this one, even though the newer one was around at the time. Okay, so that's programmed successfully. So I'm now going to do the same with the other chip, and then let's put them back on the board. Resoldering the chips is at least as easy as removing them was. Normally I would actually use solder braid on here and just get the pads nice and flat. Makes it easier, I find, but there are a number of different techniques you can use here. Okay, but I prefer this one, so pads are all flat. Okay, and then we can just line our chip up, just make sure we get it the right way round. So you can see this end is where pin 1 goes, where this little notch thing is. That is a number 1 there, just to make sure we actually really know that. And how a chip can go here. I'm sure you can see the dot on the chip lined up with pin 1. So I can get that nice and flat there. Okay, and I'm just going to come in with a soldering iron. It's slightly to one side, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so that's nice and flat. Now, it may move when we put the solder on. I'm using the narrow solder, the 0.2. Let's see. If we're quick and we do it well, it won't move, but it might. Let's see. A little bit of solder. I'm doing this without any magnification. Yeah, which is why I'm not looking very good at it. I solder chip down. Okay, you can see I've got that pin now, yeah? That pin is in place. I can still very slightly move the chip if I want, but that's lining up pretty well actually. I'm happy enough with that, straight enough. Okay. You can see guys, you can use one of these BC3 tips and you can do micro soldering with it just fine. Even without any magnification I can do it. Okay, I've got a solder bridge, don't worry about it. There's me telling you I can do it and then I mess it up. That's just typical. Okay. Start from the far end one. I really should try using some magnification with this. Actually, I'll make a better job of it. But then you can't see what I'm doing. Okay. Do it the hard way for you guys. Okay. I'll do the other one under the microscope so you can see what difference it makes. Just clean that up. Okay, so I reckon that's actually soldered now. Let's go to the microscope and I'll do the other one. Okay, this is with the microscope. Looks like I still have a solder bridge on here, so we'll just put a bit of flux and we'll redo that again. Should just come in nicely now. Yeah, you see it's gone. So guys, flux helps and the microscope helps, yeah. Let's do the other one. Let's do this one correctly, yeah, so a bit of flux. We'll angle it the right way round so you can see the hole is here on that one, yeah, the actual index pin 1, this is the same. Okay. I think that's fairly flat. Okay. This time I actually try to look like I know what I'm doing. Okay, so a little bit of solder. And we've got it, okay? We've got pin 1, or rather pin 4. I can just push down on this now and just make sure it's sitting flat. Yeah, you see it moved a little bit. So it's now flat on the board. And now I can just come in and solder this. So I'll just get a little bit of solder on the bit. Okay. And that's probably enough actually. Let's have a go. Okay. Little touch more. So you can see guys, you do not need to use a fine tip soldering iron to do this sort of work. So the other side is easy, just to turn the board round and just come in at it from the other direction. Okay, bit of flux, a little bit of solder. I'll just clean the tip a little bit. Right, so I've got it, got it, got it. Maybe that one's a touch more. Okay, so you can see guys, you don't need a fine tip at all. Yeah, let's clean it up and see what it looks like. And it looks exactly like that guys. Nice job, nice and clean. Even the one I did with that magnification, although I did touch it up again with the microscope. So this is ready to try. I wonder if it'll work now. We're ready to try guys. I have the analyzer in there, I don't have the heatsink on just for the moment. I want to see if it still makes the clicking noise, yeah. Well, it's changed. It's doing something different. I'll just put a bit of heatsink compound on this. I'll just put the heatsink on. I just want to make sure it's actually making contact without it bolted down. Yes, you can see it's spread the compound, so we have good contact. It may now just be because the RAM isn't fitted. Let's just go again. So, switch on, start. Okay, no bleeps, no nothing. But it's not making that clicking noise anymore. Ah, it's now shut down. Will it come back on? No. Start it again. I'm going to put some RAM in it. Let's see if that makes a difference. I would have to check the user manual just to get the right configuration. I'll just put one in. Let's see what it does. No, so it's still stopping but on a different code. So it does appear that was part of the problem. Okay, Ah, and then it shuts down. Doesn't come back. I'm not sure which order these are supposed to go in. We can have a look at the manual, but we can also just try. Okay. Different code. But then back to this one, 2.2. Let's check the CMOS battery as well. I'm sure that'll be flat. Yeah, it's too low, that is. Stick another one in. That's okay. Right. No difference. Apart from it did make a difference reprogramming the BIOS. Try a different combination of RAM. I'm sure this is not starting up right. You see that, like it gets a different code when it first starts? And it's going to the same code regardless if we have any RAM in or not. Okay, next thing I'm going to do with this one, so I'm not going to give up just yet. I'm going to put this in the sink, soap and water, give it a good clean, and then see what happens with it. The motherboard's been in the sink, soap and water, or rather hand wash and water. It's had a good clean, and it looks much better now, I'm sure you'll agree. But if we try it, you'll see in actual fact, it hasn't made any difference, okay? It's still saying 2.2. This code, according to the book, says something like initializing slot 1. It may be a RAM thing. It's actually shut down now by itself, which is one of the things it was doing previously anyway. Back to the same code. We can put some RAM back in again, but it doesn't actually make any difference, okay? Put the RAM in, start it. It comes to the same code, yeah. Interestingly, I got a different code before it came to that. Let's try the RAM in this slot. Okay. And we can try it in the second slot also. So you go, ooh, and then it goes, comes this 2.2. I guess I could also try another strip of RAM. Okay. Different code, but it comes back to the same thing, okay? Let's just try some other RAM. So here we have some Kingston RAM. And put this in. First slot. Okay. Let's go. So basically a different code, but it comes back to the same thing. The only thing I can really say about this is we've programmed the BIOS. This is actually as a revision 1 board, I noticed eventually, which is the one we used anyway. We've tried different processors, we've tried different RAM and without RAM. I've taken this heatsink off, and this is very hard. The heatsink compound effectively is stuck to it, but it's gone like cement, solid, yeah. So it's possible, and this is quite often, that this PCH just gives up basically, and this problem is going to be a chipset problem. But we still have the mess around this chip, and I think it's probably worth us just trying to clean this up. We can have a look under the microscope now, and let's try just desoldering this, cleaning the board, resoldering it, and at least if nothing else, it's a tutorial on how to do that sort of soldering, yeah? So let's give that a go and let's see if that makes any difference to the way this is behaving. You can see there's still quite a bit of corrosion around this chip, especially on this top edge. You can see that sort of greenish corrosion on the side, and I've cleaned this as best I can with isopropyl alcohol. So we'll go with what I've just said, which is to remove it and then clean up the board, clean up the chip and resolder it, and let's see if that makes any difference. Before we desolder this, we'll just check the orientation. So there's effectively like 2 dots on it, if you like, one here, one at the other corner. In fact, the one here is not quite so easy to see on the camera, but it is there. But in particular, you will notice, you can see it now, that this corner has like a little chamfer on it, and that goes to where pin 1 is. I mean, obviously we can just look at which way round the chip actually is with the writing on it. But that little corner, this chamfered one, that is pin 1. I'm sure there are many ways of doing this. My preferred method is the same way that I actually redid the BIOSes, reprogrammed them, resoldered them. And that's to add leaded solder all the way around it and then use hot air to lift it off. And using the same theory that the solder will melt before any of the lead-free solder around it does, so the other components around here will not desolder. I don't need to put capped on tape on, which actually makes it more difficult as often as not because you can't get the heat into the board properly. So let's put some flux on our chip first. So we'll just put flux around it. Okay. I mean, I could just actually try just resoldering this, drag soldering it without removing it. But given the fact there's all this corrosion underneath, I think we'll do it this way. As to whether this is the nature of the fault, we don't know. All we can say is that there's corrosion here. I mean, maybe this doesn't make any difference, and then really there probably isn't an easy way to go any further with this one. So, BC3 tip, the one I always use, almost always. Leaded solder, and let's just add some solder around this chip. Okay, and you see it'll actually just easily bridge all the pins together like so, and we'll go on the other side as well. Same thing, just get some solder in there. I'm quite happy for the pins to all bridge together. That's really what I want them to do. Okay. Of course, pins will bridge together when you don't want them to, and when you do want them to, they won't. That's just the way it is. But there's quite a bit of leaded solder added there, and we'll come down this side as well. And that's basically doing what I want it to do. Okay. A little bit more in here. This is where it's corroded, that's probably why it isn't soldering very well. Now let's take the hot air, and we should be able to desolder this. I'm just going to turn it round so I can pick it up from one corner with my right hand, my preferred hand. Okay. I'll still try to get a bit more solder on this side where it hasn't flowed on. In that area. If I can get the solder on here, it'll be easier. Yeah, it's more like it. Right, so hot air. Tweezers. I want to lift this directly upwards so I don't knock any other components off the board. I'm just going to put this up onto my little metal stand just to make it less likely to damage the bench, basically. Somebody commented about the metal stand acting as a heatsink. It's actually bent, so if you can see it, maybe down the side, if I can show you, but like effectively the board isn't exactly sitting on it. There's a nice air gap there, yeah, because the stand itself is actually bent somewhat. So it doesn't act as a heatsink, guys. Right. We should see when this is ready to come off, because we should see the solder melt. I'm not putting the hot air so much directly onto the chip, I'm going around it, because that's where the pins are anyway, and that's what we need to get hot. Okay, this really shouldn't take too long. The main problem is if I slip sideways with it. A bit more. Okay. Now the board is warm, it's a good time to remove those blobs of solder. We'll just take a bit of braid and these will clean up. And that's quite clean. But I will actually just put a bit more leaded solder on here. Try and effectively clean off the old stuff. And then we'll clean it up with ISO and see if there's any more corrosion on this. So I'm just getting a blob of solder. Just gently hovering the iron over the pins. I'm not worried too much about solder bridges at the moment, I just want to get clean. Okay, one there. Right, let's clean that up. Actually, I can see another one. May as well get them all, I can see them. Yeah, I think that was all of them. Really guys, I can't stress enough that working on stuff like this is the only way to learn these skills. Stuff like this, it really doesn't matter at all, whether you're fixed or not. If we manage to remove and replace this chip without any solder bridges, it looks good. It's kind of like not that important if it works. We'd like to think it did exactly what it was doing before, so we haven't changed anything. But this is without doubt the way to learn, guys. So I hope if you've never done this before, this will encourage you to have a go. One thing I forgot to mention earlier, so before I reprogrammed the BIOS, I also at the same time cleaned up the corrosion around here. But what I didn't do then was try it again before I reprogrammed the BIOS. So although we know that reprogramming the BIOS has changed the way this is behaving, because I did two things at once, I cleaned this up and then reprogrammed the BIOS, I don't know which of those two things actually made the difference. Yeah, so that is not good practice. Do one thing at a time and then see what happens before you do something else. Otherwise you won't know what you did to fix it, even if you have fixed it. Okay, it's so obvious that, but even though I have quite a lot of experience, sometimes I make that mistake. Hopefully telling you guys about it means it's less likely you will. That's nice and clean. We'll look under the microscope in a minute. Let's have a look at the chip. So this is our chip. It has quite a lot of solder on because of what we did. So we need to clean this solder off. And we can just do this with a soldering iron. Normally, we might need a little bit of braid. Some flux on there. Now the trick here is not to bend the pins, okay? Try and brush them like in the direction they're pointing, basically. I'm doing this without magnification. I'll probably end up using the microscope. to get the last bits off. Quite a bit more on this side. You don't want to put pressure on the chip while you're doing this. And there we have it. You can see it's pretty clean actually. Just a little bit we need to clean up. Let's see if we can just get it. Okay, so I'll look into the microscope, it's easier for me. There's either a bit of corrosion or a bridge there. One there. One there. That I think might just be old flux. We'll have a look. That side's okay. This side is basically okay. And this one's okay, but we just bent a couple of pins out. There's one bridge there. Okay. The little bent pins are not really a problem because you can push them back in line again. Okay. There. I'll give that a clean with a bit of isopropyl alcohol. I'm just a bit concerned what we have here. Because it looks like the leg is actually free. Yeah. Let's clean it up. We'll just let that sit in there for a moment. It'll soften up the old flux and then I can easily clean it. And here is the chip itself. So you can see those pins are nice and clean. I'm just interested in the end one. No, there is no solder bridge, Luke. It was just old flux. Or was it this corner? Let's look at this one. Again, no, there's no solder bridge in there. It was just old flux, basically. And just get in there slightly. There's no harm in just touching that one with a soldering iron. I'll just raise it up from the base of the microscope slightly. Okay. Definitely nothing in between there. Look around it. So that's pretty good. That's basically ready to resolder. So let's get us back onto the board. Just get this bottom end of minis. There's like some something a bit gungy in here is the best way I can describe it. It seems to be in here. Yeah, just come in with a soldering iron. Hopefully evaporate whatever that is. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. We can test anyway when we've resoldered it. We can just go around checking for any shorts between adjacent pins. But I'm going to solder this back on. Like a lot of these sort of jobs, there's different ways of doing it. I'm going to do it via the soldering iron, a method called drag soldering. Okay, so we're going to add some flux around this. Not too much, I'll just put a bit on and then I'll sort of smooth it out a little bit in a minute. Okay. I'll just do this using a soft paintbrush basically. You can always add more. We probably will once I've actually soldered the chip down, but for now, we'll do it. And when I say solder it down, I mean I just got a couple of corners soldered down. So there's our chip. And we can place it on the board like so. Just get all the legs to line up. You might find you've got one or two bent ones, you can straighten them out. Okay, this is not sitting flat, and the reason it's not sitting flat is because basically the solder on the board isn't flat. So I'm going to use braid just to get a nice level surface. This will help a lot. Get the pads nice and flat. Okay. Now I'm sure I can get the chip to sit flat. A little bit of more flux on this. Won't do any harm. Okay. We should now be able to slide it into position because it's got a flat surface to sit on, yeah? Okay. See how much easier that was? If we just look at it either corner, you'll soon see when it's actually lined up. See it wants moving vertically a little bit. Okay. That is all nicely lined up now. If there's any pins slightly bent, we can deal with them. Still a bit that way. That's the trouble with this, guys. You think you've got it, then you just adjust it slightly and you move it out of line again, yeah? Know when to leave it alone, sometimes is the thing with this. Okay, I'm happy with that all the way around. So what I want to do now is get a bit of solder and just pin down opposite corners with a couple of pins. Just to hold it down, yeah? I'm going to do this corner and I may just move it slightly with my fingers, you see, as I solder it. So let's get a couple of these pins just tagged down. Again, I'm using this same BC3 tip. I will probably swap to a different tip and I'll do the actual drag soldering, but I think we can get this so far with this. Yeah, got one pin there. Just need to line this one up. You can see it's out of line slightly, but we can just hit that again and move it. Until we're happy we have it in the right position. Yeah, that looks good. And now let's do the same with the other corner. You notice it will move a little bit, that's because there's only one pin soldered. You don't want to move it too far, you don't want to be ripping any pins off or pads off. Okay. Angle it to however it suits you best. That should do it. Yeah, so it's now solid, yeah? It's now solid. I'm just looking around all the pins, make sure none of them are actually bent too far off the pads. Let's have a look. If they are, now is the best time to straighten them up. Okay. This one didn't actually solder. That one did. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now let's try the drag soldering. To do this, I'm going to add more flux. I'm going to use the other soldering iron. So I'm going to try the T26D. It's the first time I've used it with a curved tip. Let's try it. If this all goes horribly wrong, I will use the BC3 that I normally use, but this should actually be better. So let's see. So we have a curved conical tip. We're coming with some solder. And hopefully this will just solder the whole thing. Okay, it's not doing. That's what happens when you try something for the first time on camera. Let's try it. So I'm going to drag it outwards, yeah. Let's see if we can do it. A little bit of solder, I want cleaning. A little bit of solder. There's something in there, yeah, can you see it there? Something's got on the board. Something stuck in the foots, probably. No, I'm going to use the soldering iron I normally use. The BC3. I'm so much used to using this thing. Don't worry, if I bridge them together, I'll sort it out. I'll deal with that solder bridge in a minute on that one. So let's get it down first. Okay, you see this is what we call drag soldering. I'm not putting any pressure on it, I'm just effectively just dragging the soldering iron along there. Like so. I'm doing the same with the top edge, a bit more flux. Okay, bit of solder. Okay, and we'll go. Okay. As I say, don't worry about any solder bridges. We can sort them later. I'm not the world's best drag solderer, guys. Some people are far better than me at this, but I can do it. Yeah, and that's really what counts. So comment what you like. I can do it. There's far better people than me, as I mentioned. It's not helping because the PCI slots are slightly in the way. Now let's try and remove a few of these solder bridges. Okay. So do it by effectively heating and moving away from the chip like so. If it won't come, use a bit of braid. Just clean the iron. Again, type the thing clean. Okay, that one's been troublesome. A bit of braid will sort that one out. Another one here. Again, if you can't get a bit of braid will sort it. Okay, let's get a bit of grid. A bit of flux will help again where the bridges are, a bit there. I think there's a bit there, a bit here. There's not actually that many. We can soon put a bit more solder there if we want some. Okay. Now let's just see if we can just drag across again with some flux and spread the solder out this time. I'll try not to add any more, I might need a little bit. But there may well be enough to do it now, so let's move again. Thing with this, guys, I'm not in any rush. Yeah, I'm just not in any rush. Personally, I'll do it and it'll take as long as it takes. That side looks okay. This looks okay. So, is it soldered? Easiest way to try this is just to try and move the legs. That one, these are not soldered. Okay, so those end two are not soldered, but we can soon do it. Just going to line up on the pads a little bit better. Okay. And you see, I'm just sliding up to the edge of the legs basically. You've got a little bit of solder on here, okay? So I'm just touching the ends to see but any that don't look like they're soldered. Okay. You can see the soldering. Yeah? See them like change. Okay, so I'll just go around doing this and then we can check again for any solder bridges. Okay, that's soldered, I think. We can just go around and just check for any pins that are not soldered down, just touch them. If any are loose, you'll soon know about it. Okay, so I'll just go around the rest of them, guys, and just see if they're all firmly soldered. Yep, they're all soldered. And then we'll just zoom in a little bit and just check for any solder bridges. If we can't see any, then we're ready. Okay. It helps usually if you can kind of tilt it up at an angle. If you angle the board up, just get the focus. This will show you any solder bridges down under there. That's good. That's good. And this side. Okay, so that looks good, guys. Let's see what it does. Power on. No, it's doing the same thing. So desoldering and resoldering that was successful, and as much as it didn't change anything, so we can say that job was a good one. So if you didn't know how to do that, now you've seen me just about manage it. Yeah, and the only way, guys, to learn is to do it. Yeah, so get practicing. And we'll just check a couple other things on this, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. So in particular, what voltage do we have to the CPU? Okay, so I can check on these MOSFETs down here. These will be the VRMs, so we'll have the junction somewhere between the two. One end will have 12 volts on, and I should imagine this is the junction between here and here, but let's have a look. So we're looking for, you know, a fairly low voltage here. Just start it up. Okay, power, that's what we got. So that's 12 volts. And it's now switched off before I can measure it. Like you again. Yeah, 1.1, that's fine. RAM is down this end. Just over here, the VRMs for the RAM. We'll switch it back on again. 1.5, we should have 1.8. Yeah, 1.8, it's DDR2. So the main voltages are there. It's most likely that this has got a problem, the PCH, because the heatsink compound had all gone hard on it basically. And that one, guys, is a bit of a failure unless anybody's got any other suggestions how to proceed with this one. I think it just has a chipset problem and it's probably on the pile of stuff to learn to desolder and resolder these things. Okay, hope you enjoyed it anyway. Hope you at least learned some techniques anyway, or how not to do it, whichever is your best opinion. Comments below, guys, and I'll see you all soon on another Learning Electronics Repair video. Ciao for now.